Yosemite National Park. Located in central eastern California, Yosemite National Park is a nature preserve famous for its majestic mountains, picturesque lakes, and diverse flora and fauna. Situated within the Sierra Nevada range, the park is centered around the Yosemite Valley, a glacial valley offering access to mountain peaks, alpine meadows, ancient sequoia forests, and pristine waterways. Yosemite National Park's extraordinary variety of geological features, wildlife, and vegetation has earned it international recognition as a World Heritage Site. Geological forces have shaped Yosemite's iconic landscape, uplifting, collapsing, carving, and eroding the terrain to make it what it is today. Several 100 million years ago, the area occupied by Yosemite today was covered by a shallow part of the Pacific Ocean. As rivers washed sediment onto the ocean floor, hundreds of meters of sediment built up and were compressed into limestone and sandstone. As tectonic plates shifted, this sedimentary rock was deposited further inland, eventually ending up in mountain ranges. More sediment was deposited a short time later when the mountains were worn down and again covered by shallow ocean. Approximately 220 million years ago, the North American plate collided with the Farallon plate, pushing the North American plate upwards and the Farallon plate downwards. The pressure and heat created by this subduction melted large sections of both plates. Over several million years, the resulting magma cooled into igneous rock. 95% of the landmass of Yosemite National Park is carved from a large group of igneous plutons created by this subduction process, known as the Sierra Nevada batholith, spanning the length of the Sierra Nevada range. Two major phases of plutonism contributed to the formation of the Sierra Nevada batholith. Volcanic action also metamorphosed the sedimentary rocks that had been deposited earlier, which, today, can be seen in the east of the park. The igneous rock seen in Yosemite National Park is largely granite. Many of Yosemite's well-known features are formed from different varieties of granodiorite. As magma cooled over millions of years, certain minerals, such as biotite and hornblende, were interspersed throughout quartz and feldspar, creating a salt and pepper appearance characteristic of granite. When the Yosemite granite formed, the region was under intense pressure from rocks deposited previously. However, when this pressure was later released, the granite expanded and formed exfoliation joints, cracks in the rock that were instrumental in later formation of the variety of domes, walls, basins, and canyons seen in Yosemite National Park. Heavy volcanic action ended approximately 80 million years ago, giving way to erosion as the primary force shaping the region. Erosion by water acted as a leveling force, exposing the granite plutons underneath sedimentary rock and carving rivers into the exposed granite. The Sierra Nevada range was eroded to an extreme degree, falling from thousands of meters tall to a few hundred meters tall and resembling little more than hills. During this erosion, the North American plate completely subducted the Farallon plate and collided with the Pacific plate, which was moving in a slightly more northern direction, resulting in displacement of granite along the fault line. Around 20 million years ago, renewed volcanic activity around the Yosemite area deposited more igneous rock in the northern and eastern regions of the modern park boundaries and formed some of the geological features seen in the park today. 10 million years ago, the Sierra Nevada range was again uplifted by tectonic forces, ascending to approximately its current day height. This uplifting was not even, with the northeastern side experiencing a more dramatic rise. The combination of uplifting and erosion acted on joints in large granite plutons, over time carving out some of the most iconic features of Yosemite National Park, such as Half Dome and Sentinel Dome, as well as widening the area that would become Yosemite Valley. Due to the southwestern slope of the Sierra Nevada range, waterways that ran southwest flowed faster than tributaries, which usually ran in line with the mountain range. This resulted in significantly faster rates of erosion for southwestern waterways, which in turn carved the beginnings of Yosemite Valley and Hetch Hetchy Valley. However, around 2.6 million years ago, glacial advances during the Pleistocene Ice Age finished carving the famed Yosemite Valley. At least 4 major glaciations have shaped the landscape of Yosemite, along with many minor glaciations. The Sherwin glaciation, lasting 300,000 years, is thought to have shaped Yosemite Valley, while the Tahoe, Tenaya, and Tioga glaciations shaped minor features higher in the mountains. As the glaciers flowed through the valleys, they widened and deepened the existing canyons, forming U-shaped valleys, moraines, and cirques. Yosemite Valley is thought to have been nearly entirely filled with a glacier originating partly from the Merced River Canyon and partly from the Tenaya Canyon. The glaciers also extended into low-lying areas adjacent to the valley. These small branches of the large glacier had less erosive power, and thus, while the large glacier carved deep into the valley, the tributaries carved shallower paths, leading to hanging waterfalls tens or hundreds of meters tall. Eventually, as temperatures increased and annual snowfall decreased, the glaciers receded. Currently, only 2 glaciers exist in the park, Lyell Glacier and McClure Glacier, remnants of the minor glaciations that covered the area. After the glaciers receded, Yosemite Valley was temporarily flooded, creating a long, shallow lake known as Yosemite Lake. Sediment carried downwards by post-glacial streams was deposited at the bottom of Yosemite Valley, gradually filling in the lake basin and leaving behind mineral-rich soil suitable for supporting the various local plants. Natural forces continue to shape the park to this day, most importantly the forces of water, earthquakes, rockfalls, erosion, and weathering. The granite features of Yosemite erode slowly, as granite is a tough material, but many of Yosemite's more fragile features are constantly undergoing change, some for the better, some for the worse. Many efforts by park rangers aim to preserve Yosemite National Park's unique ecology and geology, such as temporarily closing off certain areas of the park or destroying invasive species whenever they are found. The complex and distinctive ecosystems that exist within Yosemite National Park are dependent on the climate of the park. Many different climatic conditions exist within the park, primarily due to differences in elevation. Typically, most precipitation in any part of the park falls during the fall and winter months, while summers are significantly more dry. Yosemite Valley generally has warm temperatures and mild precipitation, with temperatures ranging from 10 to 30 degrees Celsius for most of summer and -2 to 10 degrees Celsius in winter. Temperatures predictably decrease as elevation increases. For example, Tuolumne Meadows, at an elevation more than 1,000 meters higher than Yosemite Valley, experiences significantly colder summers and winters. Snowfall usually does not begin in the park until late September and begins to accumulate starting in November, although may not accumulate significantly in Yosemite Valley. As a result of different regions of the park having different climate patterns, the park has several smaller ecosystems that are all interconnected. Many species of plants and animals in the park are adapted to specific areas, such as wildflower meadows or the sequoia groves. Yosemite National Park is famous for ecological diversity, as the region is one of the few remaining examples of pristine Sierra Nevada nature. Some species of plants and animals are believed to be endemic to Yosemite National Park. The region is also threatened by invasive species, forest fires, changes in weather conditions, and many other factors. Yosemite Valley, with its temperate weather patterns, is home to the greatest variety of plants and animals found in the park. Vegetation in the valley is extremely diverse, with both coniferous and deciduous trees present, as well as grasses, flowers, and shrubs. Lower areas of the valley are often flooded, creating the perfect environment for meadows or marshes to flourish. Areas slightly more elevated support more trees, such as pine, fir, cedar, and oak, and sometimes shrubs. These environments are commonly inhabited by large animals such as bears, coyotes, or foxes. This ecosystem is referred to as the chaparral, as most plants and animals in this region are specifically adapted to hot, dry summers and wet winters. Meadows are home to most of the park's biodiversity, with the grasses, shrubs, and flowers making an attractive habitat for many animals. Although meadows only cover 3% of the park's area, considerably more flora and fauna are dependent on the ecosystems within meadows, such as deer, gophers, and owls. Of the 3,000 meadows in Yosemite, Tuolumne Meadows is one of the biggest, stemming from the Tuolumne River in the east side of the park. Plant and animal communities in the meadows vary predominantly with the seasons and the changes in water level that accompany seasonal changes. Subalpine and alpine environments located higher in the mountains are home to fewer and smaller plants and animals. Coniferous trees are more common here, particularly several species of pine. As a result of the decreased vegetation, large animals are not often seen in this environment, with the exception of some predatory birds. With the transition from subalpine to alpine environment, most trees disappear completely, unable to tolerate the cold temperatures during winter. Trees give way to grasses, flowers, mosses, and, ultimately, bare rock at the tops of mountains. Yosemite National Park is also home to large groves of sequoias, the largest trees on Earth and naturally occurring only in the Sierra Nevada. 3 groves of sequoias can be found in Yosemite: the Mariposa, Tuolumne, and Merced groves, of which the Mariposa Grove is the largest. Sequoias are an endangered species, since the extremely specific environment they are adapted to is threatened by many factors. Sequoias propagate via seeds found in cones. A mature tree may release millions of seeds per year, but of those seeds, less than 1 in a million will grow past the age of 1 year old. The seeds require fire to grow, both to open the cone and to provide a fungus-free layer of topsoil on which they can take root, and human stifling of natural fires has been detrimental to the growth and spread of sequoias in Yosemite. The vast wilderness of Yosemite is constantly changing from environmental factors, water, fire, and invasive species. The forces of water can drastically redefine habitats, shifting the species of plants and animals that live there. With changes in snowfall, annual warming and cooling cycles, and precipitation in recent years, ecosystems in the park are changing at an unprecedented rate. The California drought of 2011 took a severe toll on Yosemite, killing hundreds of thousands of trees that had already been weakened by invasive beetles. An estimated 2.4 million trees in the park are dead, either due to drought or to invasive species. The presence of such a large amount of dead wood poses another risk to the park: fire danger. Naturally, fires occur periodically and clear old and dead plants, making space for new growth. However, fires have not been able to clear Yosemite following the drought, and the potential for uncontrolled fire is alarmingly high. National park rangers sometimes attempt to light controlled fires to diminish fire danger, but the natural fire cycle that Yosemite previously had has been nearly destroyed. Of the 400 vertebrate species found in Yosemite, nearly a tenth are endangered by habitat loss or invasive species. In addition, some of the most prominent plant species in the park, such as ponderosa pines, are threatened directly by invasive species, affecting the entirety of the Yosemite ecosystem. Many invasive plant species, such as Himalayan blackberry or yellow star thistle, force out native plants and have no predators, thus spreading faster than native plants can. Another invasive species, Didymo, threatens the waterways of Yosemite by forming algae blooms that cover streams and rivers. Park rangers are constantly tracking and removing invasive species, but serious damage has already been done by invasive plants and animals. Humans likely came to the park around 10,000 years ago, but it was not until roughly 4,000 years ago that permanent settlements within the park arose. Historians think humans may have come into Yosemite Valley from Central Valley in search of berries and animals in the mountains, as well as for trading with tribes in the east. The isolation and material wealth of the valley was perfect for settlements, and the native population steadily increased to several thousand. A number of tribes existed within the current park boundaries, namely the Miwoks and Awanichis, residing on the outskirts of the park and inside Yosemite Valley, respectively. The two tribes had many conflicts, and the Miwok tribe considered Awanichis to be particularly violent, which gave rise to the name of the area. Yosemite was the Miwok word for killers. The natives that settled in the valley were mainly reliant on hunting and gathering rather than agriculture, with their diet consisting primarily of nuts, mushrooms, and berries, followed by fish and wild game. The staple crop was the acorn, which was prepared by pounding it with a rock, then leaching off poisonous tannin with hot water. The resulting meal was cooked to create a sort of acorn soup. Some acorns, as well as any other nuts or berries, would be stored for long periods of time. Plants were also used for weaving baskets and making strong bows and arrows. To supplement nuts and berries, natives fished for salmon and trout, and hunted rabbits, small birds, deer, elk, and squirrels. Tribe members lived in permanent villages or temporary seasonal hunting huts constructed from thatch and bark. Despite Spanish explorers having reached California, no accounts exist of Spanish explorers traveling to the Sierra Nevada. It was not until the California Gold Rush that European explorers stepped foot into Yosemite, sometimes coming into contact with natives, who were not often friendly. In 1851, the Mariposa Battalion, intending to suppress attacks from natives, located Yosemite Valley during their expedition. A physician with the group, Dr. Lafayette Bunnell, later wrote about discovering Yosemite, which brought the area to the attention of many other Californian settlers. In 1855, writer James Mason Hutchings and artist Thomas Ayers toured Yosemite, cataloging their experiences and observations, which they would publish in a San Francisco Gazette upon their return. This expedition is considered critical in increasing public awareness of Yosemite, as, after Hutchings' observations were published, tourism to the area skyrocketed. Many people established their own settlements within the valley, and some even created companies to serve newcomers, such as hotels, stores, and tour agencies. Several tourist attractions were established, such as trails to waterfalls and meadows, the Giant Trees Grove, now known as Mariposa Grove, and even an event known as the Firefall, when hot embers would be dropped from Glacier Point. Many people noticed that increasing human development was taking its toll on the natural wonders of Yosemite, and pressured legislators to protect the area. Most notably, Thomas King and Galen Clark were responsible for leading politicians to draft a bill to give control of the land of Yosemite to California. On June 30, 1864, Abraham Lincoln signed the bill, known as the Yosemite Grant. Although the land now belonged to the state of California, authorities did not have the power to stop much of the human activity going on in the park, and development continued. John Muir, a famous Scottish naturalist and wilderness explorer, traveled throughout Yosemite, documenting the plants, animals, and geological features he saw. Muir noticed the damage that logging and livestock grazing was doing to Yosemite, and with the help of Robert Underwood Johnson, lobbied Congress to protect the park. On October 1, 1890, the mountains in Sequoia Grove were made into a national park, while the state of California kept control over Yosemite Valley. The national park was patrolled by the U.S. Army, who would ensure that the park was protected. Muir and his newly formed Sierra Club continued to pressure the federal government to add Yosemite Valley to the national park area. In 1903, Muir toured Yosemite with then-President Theodore Roosevelt, convincing him to expand the national park. On June 11, 1906, Roosevelt signed a bill granting Yosemite Valley to Yosemite National Park. However, to guarantee congressional approval for the bill, large tracts of land had to be cut from the park. Later, some land would be added or donated to the park. When the National Park Service was created in 1916, control of Yosemite National Park was transferred to the National Park Service. Since that time, development has improved infrastructure in the park, preserved natural phenomena, and increased tourism. Thank you for watching, and, as always, if you enjoyed, leave a like or a favorite, share the video with your friends, or even subscribe for more educational documentaries. Check out some of the other videos in the National Parks playlist, or check out the featured channels for more content.